Hello, howdy, cadre. It's the Druid. Take two. My tooth feels a lot better, so we're moving on to other issues. Swelling's all gone. I have an appointment in a week and a half at this point. Wanted to talk to you about identity. There was an interesting study out of University of Texas, Austin, and I'll put a link in the description. This paper is called Identity Fusion: The Interplay of Personal and Social Identities in Extreme Group Behavior. And they were trying to figure out, among extremists, how individuals, their sense of self-identity fit into a larger picture of the group's identity. And in working with people of multiple nationalities, languages, cultures, they wanted to find a very simple way to express this idea. And what they came up with is 5 cards that depict the self with a small circle and the larger group as a larger circle. And participants were explained that this small circle is your sense of self, your own personal sense of identity as an individual, and then these larger circles represent the group's identity. And so this overlap shows how much you feel that your identity is the same as the group's identity, versus do you feel like an individual that's part of this larger group, and that group somehow exists as an entity other than yourself. So with A, they have the circles touching, but no overlap, and the concept there would be your sense of self is almost not informed by the group, or if anything, it's informed just by that part you touch. And then the overlap continues to show more and more of your sense of self-identity is based on what you understand of the group as a whole. And then once we get down to E, we have the concentric circles sharing a center point, and that is your full sense of identity comes from the group. But this is a very limited view of the world. You're only looking at the relationship of your identity with the group's identity, and it doesn't map other groups, the human race as a whole, the planet as a whole. And my concern isn't limited to a group that I see myself as a part of. It extends to the whole planet, and not just our planet, but the other planets, wherever there's life, wherever the midichlorians can be found, which are even in rocks, not just living things, but also in rocks. Anyways, I don't want to get off on Star Wars stuff. But how do these group identities fit into this larger idea of all of us, life as a whole, or just human life, if you want to just focus on our species, very man versus animal sort of way to see the world. But yeah, I'd really like to see how the idea of the group fit in larger. And with the hashtag #ACult, our goal is to expand our sense of identity to all things. Anybody who wants to join and entertain the ideas I put forward are welcome. And, you know, we're looking for critical thinking and scrutiny, mysticism, Gnostics, atheists, agnostics, people who question a faith they've had for a long time, people who have never questioned their faith. We're looking for questioners, so philosophers, artists, we're going to need technical support and stuff. But there's a quote from Einstein, and this is a long version, but I've seen just the last sentence shared. But I'm gonna run through this whole thing. It's a good quote. A human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And this is what we're talking about. We don't just want to understand how we fit in to a larger group. And in this study of fusion, identity fusion, this is by SWANN, SEYLE, Gomez, Morales, and HUICI. I'm not good at names. But again, I'll link it in the description. They were just looking at self-identity within a group, and their concern was this final one where you could imagine almost a diminished sense of self, maybe a smaller and smaller circle, where your identity only comes from without. Here at A Cult, we're interested in doing the opposite. I don't know what our group is. But starting from my sense of identity as self and asking any other participants to join in, our goal is to expand this circle ever outward until we squash all opposition in the form of other cults or even churches, which are just larger cults. How do you define a group or a nation? Where do you start? I mean, right now, our vice president is engaged in funny business with what is the capital of Israel, while the Palestinians are unable to even claim a country of their own with the dual occupation. That's an old... we're getting off subject. I meant to end with the Einstein quote, so feel free to use hashtag A Cult. Can't use my fingernails though. Those are mine. Yeah. We're a multi-dimensional cult that believes in ecumenical, multi-faceted That's starting to look like a flower. The all churches that there's so many facets to everything. It's a multifaceted. You look at one face to see into the center, but all the faces look into the center, and there's more paths than one. And yes, you can get there, but I wouldn't start from here. You can get there, but I wouldn't start from here. Insert catchphrase here.